What's up, all power ass crew? Today we're just rambling around Junkyard. I have worked every day for 4 weeks straight. I'm burnt out and I need out of the house. So what better way to do it than stop around Junkyard? Just a couple of nitpicky parts in particular for some XJ and my Tahoe here. Other than that, I'm just a kid in an amusement park looking at the junk cars. Let's go. Ooh, got some big old hair dryer sitting up there. Who'd ever thunk it on a big old box truck? If you want to do a junkyard lift on a YJ, here's the truck you need. Get those leaf packs right there. What you'll do is, this leaf right here, you'll cut the eyes off right along there, and you will replace the front second leaf in the front of a YJ. This leaf right here, take this, replace the second leaf of the back end of the YJ. And that gives you about 2.5 inches of lift. Pretty easy and not hard. I'll link the video up so you guys can check it out. For all you forward 8.8 swap people, you need to see this. Now those of you out there thinking, wait a minute, that is not going to have an 8.8 in it, and you are correct. But what it does have is the Ford 7.5. And right there is your yoke adapter you need to convert. Let me go to the other side and show you. Now here's the U-joint yoke adapter. On the 8.8s, this right here is bigger because it's on the bigger trucks, the Ford Explorers. But the little Rangers have the 7.5 rears in them. This yoke adapter here will work with the YJ U-joints bolt to your 8.8. Cheap, easy fix. You just got to pull that rascal off in the junkyard. You don't need the drive shaft. You just want that part right there. Be sure to keep the bolts. You may need them. Well, look at yonder. Somebody dropped some change at one point. And of course, back in my old car stereo days, that caught my eye hanging out of there. Wire up them amps. Now I gotta admit, it's kind of sexy to be honest with you. Jaguar. I wonder if it'd take the swap out into a YJ. Not. So I'm right here by a Suburban, it's one of the GMT 800 series trucks, and I see this laying on the ground. And you ever get those little voices in your head that says, you really should get that, but you don't know why? I don't know what that is, but it looks like something that ought to be, like you can do some cool swaps or something. I'm not sure. Y'all tell me down in the comments what's that about. I know this is a Jeep channel primarily, but I do got other toys. Something about that just says I ought to get that. I'm a pack rat. Another Ford Ranger yoke adapter for your 8.8 swap. And these little GMC Jimmies right here, also, if you want to do the junkyard suspension lift on a YJ, you can use these leaves here because they're 2.5 inches wide. But like I said, main leaf goes in the front, chop the eyes off and go in the front. Second leaf goes in the rear of the YJ. And as I said earlier, on the YJ packs, you're replacing the second leaf. Take the second leaf completely out of the YJ pack, put the S10 leaves in, you'll get about roughly 2 inches of lift or so. Now, some people want to bash the whole junkyard lift thing, saying that it's not the proper spring rates, you don't flex, you don't do this, blah, 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 blah. I did a collaboration video with Simply Must Go a while back, and I was going through his comments and stuff one day, seeing how the responses to the stuff I contributed, and I got bashed for my junkyard lift. So, anyway, it was something to the effects of the comments that the springs would unload, or they just don't, just totally bashing them. I'll tell you what, I'm going to link up a video where I was wheeling ALP, Venture Off-Road Park here in Tennessee. The junkyard lift using S10 leaves, ain't no problem, dude. They work. Flex just fine. As long as you get rid of the track bar, get rid of that sway bar, you can flex, even with an S10 pack. You know you've got sickness when you see something like that, thinking, ooh, I could LS swap that. That was so fun. I put like some kind of Ford 9-inch rear under it or something like that, something good and stout. Stockish looking wheels. Dude, that'd make an evil sleeper. Sweet. Another S10 for a junkyard lift. I know, I'll say it again. There's you another leaf pack. Junkyard lift. Haha. I had to point it out. And honestly, there's a kind of a popular swap for a lot of YJs as well. People using the 4.3 liter. They're great little engines. But to be honest with you, it's kind of a waste of time, because if you're going to go through all the trouble putting the 4.3 in, you might as well just go ahead and V8 swap it. V8 as an LS, or even a, I need to check that transfer case shifter. V8 mean, yeah, it could be an LS swap, or it could be a standard old school small block. And if you go old school small block, like the Gen 1 stuff, if you're going to wheel and do any kind of serious wheel, you need to convert that over to fuel injection. Because if you're running carburetor and you get off camber or something like that, it's going to unload the fuel bowls. It's not going to be able to pick up fuel. You'll start stalling out. I know this from experience from an 03 quarter-ton Chevy I used to rock crawl. Every time I get off camber, the fuel bowls would get uncovered and die. So then I'd have to figure out how to manipulate that big heavy rascal around to get it to start up again and crawl off that rock or hill, whatever I was on. But that was long before my YouTube days. I think YouTube was just thought of at that point in time. So yeah, that was a long time ago. Now I'm underneath this little S10, obviously four-wheel drive, because here's your transfer case. And this is what you're going to call an MP231C. C as in Chevrolet. Under your YJ Cherokees, stuff like that, you're going to have an MP231J. And you'll be able to see that right there on that round plate that's all nastified on this one. So why am I showing you this S10 part when I'm primarily a Jeep channel? Well, some people who do the V8 swaps, or 4.3 in this case, in this rig, this is probably $700, but the front right here, your planetaries, some of them have a 60-year planetary, not all of them. And the reason that the Chevrolet transfer case is important is that if you want to do a V8 swap in your YJ and you're doing a Chevrolet swap, you're going to use the front half of the MP231C, the rear half of the MP231J. All the parts internally will swap out. They'll give you the proper spline count for your transmission for the Chevrolet, and also give you the right bolt count here where it mates up to the transmission. The Chevrolet and Jeep have a different bolt count, because coming in, you see a little embossment right there? That's where the bolt comes in right there to hold it all together. So that's how you put the Chevrolet drivetrain in a Jeep. Back half, Jeep MP231J, front half MP231C, mates to your GM drivetrain, then your drive shafts, goes to your Jeep factory stuff, and you're good to go. I'm actually in here looking for some XJs, but I just don't think it's gonna happen so far. I got this side, knuckle swap. Yep, it's a 4-drive. Yep, knuckle swap. Little Jeep Liberty. I gotta admit, I've got a little bit of attraction for those little rigs right there. I think it'd be fun to build one up. A solid axle on the front of it. You got them just beat the snot out of it. Yeah, buddy. I'm about to get rained on. I need to find me an XJ if they've got any and get what I need. Get out of here. Knuckle swap. The motor's in it. It's a 6-banger. Uh-oh. Tell me what they're good for. Tell me what they're good for. Right there, right there, right there. Oh, also one more thing. The steering column, a lot of the parts will swap out with the YJ as well. Like that right there if you need one. Hey, those are sexy little cars. Does it have a Hemi in it? Got a Hemi in it? Of course not, it's a 6-banger. I've driven those cars right there, they run pretty darn strong. Ooh, Cadillac. When you see the Ford Explorer, you think, oh yeah, 8.8 swap, let's go get it. Yeah, don't get all excited. That's an independent rear. Ooh, those things give me nightmares. See, yeah, ooh, those engines right there, they are an abomination to work on. They're terrible. They got 3 timing chains in the front of them, and you gotta use a mirror to see the timing marks on them. I'll never touch another one again, never. That was somebody's baby at one point, little drop top Mustang. Expedition. Ooh, we got beefy. Good Lord, the size of that chunk. Beefy, beefy, beefy. Got some old school Dodge going on. Ooh, probably a little 318, 1500. But when you see these Ford Explorers, then you can get happy. Right there, rear disc brake, 8.8, baby. Yes. and you look at the door card, it says axle 45. I'll link up a video where I did a little walk around a junkyard explaining the 8.8s. You guys go check it out. Then you come back and tell me, hey, axle 45, that is a beep. What ratio is a limited slip? Tell me. Ooh, Tahoe got some bling bling. Don't get me wrong, I put that on my Tahoe, make it all bling blingy, but bling bling ain't my thing. I'm not a bling bling look at me person. I'm a rusted, busted, send it. But I do need to get a set of hooks for my Tahoe. Does it have a cluster? It has a cluster, but it doesn't have the trans temp. Some of my past junkyard videos, I showed you guys where I was running out checking all the Tahoe Suburbans and stuff like that, looking for a cluster that has a transmission temp. I'm not so worried about it now. I would still like to have one, and I did find one. I showed you guys in a past video. It was bad, so I'm gonna put new stepper motors in, all that kind of fun stuff. Never done it before, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'll figure it out. I got me one of those Android radios with a 10-inch screen, put in my Tahoe, and I've got one of those OBD2 Bluetooth dongles that plugs into the OBD port. It sends a signal to my radio, and I load up Torque Pro. Now I can see all my gauges. I'll show you guys that here in a little bit. So earlier in the junkyard, I told you guys about me having my Tahoe set up where I can monitor all my gauges now and my transmission temp. Let me show you guys something. The clusters here I've been chasing, right there is the trans temp. I don't have one, obviously. But this is going to be my tow rig for pulling my Jeeps back and forth to the trail. So I need to monitor my transmission temps so I know when I need to pull over or do whatever I need to do. Yes, before you guys cut me off, I know I need to install a transmission temp cooler. I've got one, I just haven't installed it yet. But here's how I'm monitoring my transmission temps now. See that blue thing with the red light? That is one of those Bluetooth OBD2 dongles, I think that's what they're called. You plug it to your OBD2 port. It sends a signal to my radio. And yes, I'm listening to some tunes. Well, actually, I've got it muted so I can do this video. Okay, and I click, touch here. Torque. Hi, everybody, you see me. So I guess where you guys can see what's going on without so much reflection. Okay, right there is linking up to the thing plugged up down there. Look at that. So I'm reading my tach. Ain't that just cool? But the other functions, it's got a real-time information. Scroll down, and right there it does all your diagnostic trouble codes when it boots up. And then, woo-wee, look at all those fancy gauges. You can actually take this app and build your cluster to whatever you want. Including, like I've got my transmission temp here, GPS speedometer, which I compare to this one right here. It's within a couple miles of each other, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Come on, focus. And right there, I've got my coolant. And right there, my coolant temperature, voltage, throttle position sensor, vacuum signal. Pull this out of the way. Mass airflow, how much timing, and the load on the engine right there. And I said the volts. Watch my throttle position. See, I'm just blipping the throttle just a little bit. Now, I don't have my tach set up on this right here. I did, but I wanted to include some other gauges because my tach right there, it works just fine. So that's how I monitor my transmission fluid temp now. I will still like to have a cool looking cluster. I have one at the house. I just got to change out all the stepper motors and see if it works. But I can at least monitor my transmission temps when I'm towing now. And I haven't towed anything heavy yet. I've pulled my 16-footer with this thing once, but I haven't loaded the Jeep up on it yet. So we'll see how that works. Knuckle swap. And since the other one had the tires and wheels on it, I'll show you what I mean. You want, if you see these JeepYjs, you want that knuckle right there. Everything from that knuckle outward, okay? Except for the brake disc, you can't use them. Or you can re-drill them if you want to, because the lug pattern on the newer Cherokees, it's like a 5-on-5 or something like that. Versus YJs and XJs, they are a 5-on-4.5, so your lug pattern's gonna be quite a bit smaller. There's two different calipers. There's like a Tevis, I can't remember how it's pronounced. And then you got Akebono calipers. You want the Akebono calipers. They're the better of the two. I think the Tevis, or however you pronounce that, were basically junk and they cause a lot of problems. So you want to be sure which calipers you're getting out of the junkyard. But all that gives you the big brake upgrade. Bigger disc, bigger caliper means whoa power. I don't know where this thing come from, dude, but she is eat up with rust. Woo, yucky. But it's got the full pump O in it. And I got raindrops falling on my head. It's like a good fan set up there. Come out of that right there. Another thing I occasionally scour the junkyards for is your old Buick Centuries, Pontiac Bonnevilles. They come out with a 3.8 liter in them. Some of those 3.8s had superchargers on them, the M90 superchargers. I've got one already. I want two. And so I occasionally just come out running around the junkyard to see if I can find one of those. Look at there, knuckle swap. But the other big junkyard I go to, they have them, I ain't gonna say all the time, but much more often, put it that way. So, dude, it's getting chilly. And I got raindrops are falling on my head. And I have not yet found a doggone exchange here. So I guess I am out of luck here. Well, speaking of superchargers, keep an eye out for some of these Thunderbirds right here. This one's a V8, which is probably the 4.8 liter. Some of the SSC, as in Super Coupes. So those come out with superchargers on them. Some are turbocharged. And some of you are going to argue, no, they were not turbocharged. Yes, the earlier generation ones were, because I've driven one and they are fun. It was a, I say the early generations, it was a inline 4-cylinder with a turbo on it. 5-speed, it was scat. Oh. Ooh, sexy. Not my style, but PT Cruiser, do we have seats? Door's locked, go check the other side. Some of these are turbocharged as well. It's been mangled. Cigarette burn. That old Dodge right there kind of reminds me of a story that happened to me a long time ago. I come by it honestly by tinkering with old cars. My dad's always done it. I grew up doing it around him. My uncles did it. I mean, I just grew up tinkering with old cars. Well, he got one of these old Dodges right here, dragged it out of a field. I was driving. I was probably 14, 15 years old, something like that. And, big rear dip under that Dodge. I like big rear ends, yes. Okay, I digress. Anyway, he said, here's the deal. He hooks a strap, rope, chain, or something, I don't remember what it was. He says, when I take off, you got to drive this thing out of the field. Okay, sounds simple enough, don't it? Well, I couldn't see through the windshield. I mean, because it'd been sitting out in this field for so long that there's so much grime and moss and everything over the windshield, I had no idea where I was going. All thing I could do was hang on tight. 8.8 swap. Woo, I like it wheels. Oh, does that truck bring back memories? Buddy of mine back in high school had one of these. It was a 2-wheel drive, but he lifted it, done all that fancy stuff to make it look like a 4-wheel drive. And he treated it like a 4-wheel drive. That right foot, son, he would see heels or whatever, he'd bury it. That poor little inline 6 was just screaming for his life. He never backed down, and that truck just kept taking that beating to the day he sold it. Those old Nissan hard bodies, they're good rigs. Those in the Toyotas with the SR22 engines in them, dude, you can beat them things to no mercy. Oh, this poor little Ford Ranger didn't end too well. Check that out. Let me show you what might be the cause of it. Those axles are way too small for wheels that big. Just don't do it. It's a little Ford 7.5. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you're doing an 8.8 swap, that yoke right there is what you need to convert the big flange of the 8.8 to the small U-joint of the YJs. This thing right here, I tell you what, if I was actually in the market for these, I'd have scored today. I've seen several of them. But pop out the U-joints, you don't need the drive shaft, just get this and the bolts and you're good to go. Keep an eye on some of those Trailblazers too. Some of those come out with the 5.3s in them that are pretty wicked. PT Cruiser, do we have cool seats? A little stained. Overall, not bad. Then over it looks like somebody took up in it. I tell you, for all the car stereo people, I have found a bunch. See, that's Rockford Fosgate cable right there. Fosgate. You know what? I think I'm gonna get that. Well, check that out, little booster seat got Goodyear on it. Ain't that just cool? Or butt pad, back, that's a back pad, that's what it is. Yeah, ain't that just fancy? Honestly, if you was out here working on stuff, that's what I'm getting that. Because I'm getting old, and if you throw that on the ground like that, it's a place to put your knees, so you don't have all those aches and pains, or minimize. I wonder what they're going to charge me for that. Check that out. Now, I'm not a big fan of the SN series bodies, but I guess what my thing about them is, or any cars like that, once upon a time, somebody spent a lot of time and a lot of work and stuff like that to buy this vehicle. I want a convertible, I want to be this, I want to be that, and now here it is in the junkyard. I mean, I'm not a diehard convertible fan. Of course, I love my Jeeps, but that's a different genre. But somebody was in love with that car when they bought it one time. It just kind of hurts my feelings to see it in the junkyard, knowing that was so much pride and joy. And there it is. Oh, another old Dodge. I've got a thing for old Mopars. Dakota. Now, some of these right here, if you're doing a AX15 swap, I don't remember the year generation, but some of these right here, if you do an AX15 swap, you get the bell housing out of these, because they come out with the AX15, and you can do the swap from an AX5 to AX15, I think it is. This is an automatic, so. But I'm going to be straight and honest with you. If I had a 4-cylinder YJ and the AX5 went out, and I am not going to go through the trouble of chasing down an AX15 and do all that conversion crap. That 4-cylinder's coming out, I'm dropping a V8 in it, baby. I ain't putting the time, money, or effort into something that just as wimpy as the 4-cylinders are. They're great engines, they're super tough engines, don't get me wrong. But no, that much money to swap one out? Dude, it's getting a V8. You gotta have a V8. What the heck is that? This is a Avalanche, probably a 5.3. And I got to look at this tag to see if, okay, is it a 5360 whatever, and I see that, I'm like, what? I have no idea. Whatever. I've never seen one of those. Gently used Flowmaster for $100, and I know what I got. It's got the special insert for your O2 sensor. That's one of the limited editions. $100. Now I'm going to refer back to my notes, but this is an Astro van, and that is what you call right there the hydro boost. What it does is it goes down from the power steering pump. Power steering pump increases the pressure, comes up here for your brake booster. Instead of having a vacuum booster, you're running power steering fluid to amplify your pedal pressure. I'll link up a video of my buddy's, I walked around and saw some wasp nests, and luckily ain't nobody home. I didn't even realize those were there. Whew, that could have been nasty. What's the significance of hydro boost? Especially vehicles, if you're running a lot of cam or something like that, and it's really killing your vacuum signal, hydro boost depends on the power steering pump for your amplifying the pressure of your brake pedal. Now I'm going to link up a playlist of my buddy's diesel swap. He took a Kubota engine, put it in a Jeep YJ, and being that the Kubota engine doesn't produce a whole lot of vacuum, he went with this top system right here. Up here and down there will be a link to the playlist of his diesel build for a YJ. Now he lives a couple hours from me, so I go up there periodically to get video updates and stuff to see how his build's coming along. And as I create these videos, I pop them up in that playlist. You guys go check them out. He's got the hydro boost done. He sent me some videos to my cell phone not long ago, I think like a couple days ago or so. Show me that the pump's running and the hydro boost is done, but he just got to run the plumbing to your front brakes, rear brakes, and all that kind of stuff. So the video for his hydro boost setup is going to be coming later on, but you guys hit that playlist up there and save it somehow, and that way if you're interested in seeing how hydro boost works, you'll have that video when I release it. Sweet. What you see right here is the GMC 3500 Savannah van. Why do I care? Why do you care? Let me show you. Because it could possibly have, I think it's an 8.1 liter. This one's a 6.0. But a lot of these big 3500 series vans come out with, I think it's 496 cubic inches or something like that. So every time I spot one of these big vans, the Yukon XLs, I don't know, certain box trucks and stuff, first thing I do is start checking if it's got the wide valve covers, which is the last generation of the big block. So here's another van right here. And as I mentioned, they come out a lot of Savannah vans, the 3500, 2500 series, and several of the trucks, but most of them are going to be 3/4 ton. This is a 2500, and it does not have the 14 bolt. And see, I try to look right there because then I can see the valve covers and see how wide they are. That gives a dead giveaway of whether it's the big block or not. Because of all that in the way right here, it's kind of hard to see the engine. That looks like a 6.0, I believe. Well, I said it was a 6.0, but I was a little bit right. I'm in the right engine family anyway. It's actually a 4.8. Why put a 4.8? It's something that big. You know that rear diff is geared for it. Deep gears. It's not a 14 bolt because you're going to have the full floater out here, and right there you're going to have where the pinion bolts onto the front of the chunk right there. So I'm not sure why this thing was spec'd that way. It seems kind of backwards to me, but what do I know? Here's why I don't work on Fords, people. This is just too much. Time chain here, time chain there. All that comes down to the middle down here. No, I'm not doing it. Too much. And yes, I still got my little pad for my old crickly knees. Aside from XJ parts, here's another reason why I was in here, which I've already got these. Those are they're called puddle lights. Whenever you open the doors on these Yukons, Tahoes, or whatever, that little light right there comes on, shines down the ground, kind of illuminates so you don't step in no mud puddles or something. I guess that's why they call them puddle lights. I wanted some for mine to do a little custom stuff, and I found a couple off that. I wonder what this was. Dual piston calipers. Ooh, fancy. See, that's one of the Savannah vans right there, but I think it's going to be too new to have the big block in it. We got a barn door Tahoe. Those pillars right there, I'm chasing those out with a Cadillac Escalade because these still have the little vents coming across like this. They got even slot coming all the way down like that. Then what you do with the Escalade ones, it's got that little slot. You take and put LEDs behind them that has your brake light, turn signals, tail lights and stuff like that. So then you got them down here and up there. Why? Because I want to. Now here we are with another one of the big vans, and that's what I'm talking about right there, about 14 bolt. You've got a full floater axle sticking out right here. You take those bolts out, you can take that axle right there and slide it straight out of there. And then the rest of the drum and all that stuff is riding on a set of bearings. So you could actually just cap that right there off and coast home or tow home, whatever you need to happen. And also there's a center chunk. This is obviously the newer generation because you've got those ribs right there. That's a newer generation 14 bolt. But look right there. The pinion bolts into the front of those right there, coming in that way. So along with your pinion going in that way, right inside there where your carrier is, you've got these, I don't know, you take a spanner wrench, turn it back and forth, which moves your carrier back and forth. Therefore, you can set your backlash and all that fun stuff, and your teeth mesh makes it much easier on these. So 14 bolts are the bomb. They are awesome. And the thing of it is, they're actually pretty plentiful because big vans like this right here, 3/4 ton trucks, 1 ton trucks, 14 bolts are not hard to find. On your 07 Tahoe, Suburbans and stuff like that, keep an eye out on these right here because you can integrate that into a lot of different vehicles. Matter of fact, I got a video. I'll link it up for you. But I'm not getting that one today. I just don't feel like it. Bunch of wire, 2 puddle lights, and a pad, $1.99. I can live with that. So my original intentions coming up here was one, I was wanting to get the puddle lights here. I want to do some modifications to one for my Tahoe here. 2, I wanted the third brake light out of some XJs. So I'm on the camper build right now. You guys haven't seen any videos yet, but they will be releasing soon. I've already hooked it to my YJ and towed it around a little bit. It pulls pretty good. I want to do a mod to my third brake light on that XJ so I can have turn signals and brake all in that third brake light system right there. Hence the reason of me looking for 2 XJ third brake lights. And I really need to start dragging my trailer up here because the last time I was up here, there was a Super Duty that had a complete front axle under it. Ooh, I wanted it, but then just as a whole case of me running all the way back to the house, unload. I got a Jeep frame on my trailer right now, so I'd have to get the Jeep frame off and come back up here, and it wasn't even going to be there because oftentimes whenever you see a Super Duty axle up here, they're gone quick. So, I don't know. I need to start dragging my trailer up here on the event that I find another Super Duty axle. I'll go ahead and pull it. So, we'll see. So, everyone, hope you enjoyed this little junkyard run. I try to give you guys a little bit of an education when I come out here, other than just listening to me ramble. So, if you guys learned a little something from this, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. Leave some cool comments down below. So, subscribe so you don't miss those videos. Peace. Later, y'all.